Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, Thursday Night Football, prime time. It's week number 3 in the NFL season, and what a way to start out the season or end the season. Dolphins Postgame starts right now. Let's go.
Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into Dolphins Post Game on Sports for Beginners. I am your host, Thomas McGregor. Please call me Thomas. Of course, this is also streaming right here on the Ice and behind the benches. Welcome to hockey fans who are preparing for the hockey season as well on the ice and behind the benches. Our topic of conversation, Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. Now, I said a lot in the pregame show with our host of Bills Postgame, Scott, on before they kick off. If you didn't see before they kick off and you need to see it, I would highly recommend you click the link in this episode's description to go check that out before you come back here to see us. Now, Dolphins Nation, how y'all doing after would you call it a close shave game on Thursday Night Football between Mike McDaniel, Tua Tagovailoa, Josh Allen, and Sean McDermott? Would you call it a close shave game? Why did I say close shave game? Well, because this game was like any other game you'd play with the Buffalo Bills or any team in the NFL. It was one of those games where you threw a punch, they threw a punch. We'll break down the game in just moments. We've already gone through the head coaches and we've gone through the quarterbacks. But before we get down to anything else, a reminder that we will be taking a look at the games for most of Week 3's Sunday action between the following teams of our conversation: the Jets, who the Dolphins will play next week. They're taking on the Buccaneers, and then the Bills will be on their way to face, as far as next week opponents go, they'll be on their way to face the teams that you probably have heard us talk about on before they kick off. Now, I'll reveal who that team is out the course of the show, but let's just give you a recap before we dive into the game. Now, there's a lot being said about the Dolphins this season. Fired McDaniel, take this guy down. This guy doesn't deserve to be with the Dolphins. Yada, yada, yada. All that type of news that's been coming out. And I asked a question on before they kick off to our host of Bills Postgame, and of course, our host, listeners of Bills Football, and of course, Miami Dolphins Football. If there are any other Dolphins fans out there, not going to name names, but I asked them a question that if there was a chance Mike McDaniel was fired after Week 3, who would they see be a potential coaching target for the Dolphins next? Now, the Dolphins are playing the Jets next week. That's a Monday night show. More on that later in the show. The Dolphins are on their way to play the Saints, who this week, the Saints are taking on the Seattle Seahawks. We'll be diving into those games when we get to our picks for this program. Now, there's not much really to say after that, but we do want to remind you that while Buffalo and Miami were this week's Thursday Night Football game, the Sunday night and Monday Night Football matchups you can look forward to are the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the G-Man Giants of the New York Giants, and the Baltimore Ravens are taking on the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. So Detroit's got Sunday off. just like they had Thursday off. Now they wait till Monday to wrap up week number 3. That's going to be a fun one. Let's go into this game. Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football look like good matchups. This one looks like it was, in a lot of people's minds, lopsided. Not the case, obviously. Let's jump in. Our scoring drive for this game, known as our first half, second half breakdown here, pretty much goes as follows. But before we do that, and I'll share my screen for it. Before we do that, the score line here, as I see here on my computer, you guys can't see it, but I do have it here on my computer as we are recording this. I do have it on my computer in Orchard Park, New York. The Bills and Dolphins scored 7 points each in the first quarter and second quarter. And there was only 1-0 that was put up in the beginning of the second half, and that was, of course, the Dolphins, who were down another 7 points in the third quarter. The Buffalo Bills and the Dolphins had a score of 7-10, which ultimately led to our final score being 31-21. We'll hear from the Bills locker room, but if you're a Dolphins fan and you don't want to hear it, just like I said in the Patriots game, you have the option to, of course, mute that when you are listening to it. We are getting you ready for week number 4 for the Dolphins, Jets, and of course, the Buffalo Bills and Saints. But that may be already getting prepared for you on Bills Postgame. Which, speaking of which, we will be joining that show when we are done here. And last thing before I get into the scoring drive, I swear, Blue Jays fans, Kansas City Royal fans, stick right with us after we're done here on Dolphins Postgame, because we'll be back yet again with either a victory Blue Jay game over the Royals or a victory Royals over the Blue Jays. That's right, we'll be covering the Kauffman Stadium as the final road stand for the Blue Jays wraps up, and you can see it right here on Sports for Beginners. I'll be with you through all 3 games. First pitch at one of these games is just about hours from now to get going. We'll talk about that if we have time here on Dolphins Postgame. But they are in action against the Kansas City Royals, and it'll be a good matchup. If you are here local time, which is Eastern for us, that will be a 7:40 p.m. start. The other times, I may reveal it on Blue Jay Game Recap. But right now, we have a game to talk about, and we have some football action to get prepared for on Sunday to Monday for week number 3. Let's dive in to our scoring drives to tell us how this happens to be Buffalo's game. The Dolphins start things off on the right foot, Dolphins Nation, as we all probably watched, with a kickoff from the Buffalo Bills 35. And in just 13 plays on a 3rd and 2nd yard, a 3rd and 2 at the Buffalo 2nd yard line in the red zone, it is Ollie Gordon getting up the middle for a 2-yard Dolphins touchdown. 6-0 Buffalo is down by 6 points. But Riley Patterson does not miss this goal line of an extra point, and he will kick it up and good. So now Buffalo finds themselves down 2 points. It is 7-0 Dolphins over the Buffalo Bills. So 7-0 for the Miami Dolphins. They are in front, 7-0. Buffalo Bills drive, kind of the same scenario. There was a yardage penalty on Josh Allen's incomplete pass to Keon Coleman. Jay Jones' pass interference defense was enforced 20 yards. Anywho, what else happened in that play? Oh yes, Josh Allen would throw his first touchdown pass against the Miami Dolphins of this season. Short left to Dalton Kincaid for 20-yard touchdown. The Bills are on the board. It's 7-6. Dolphins in front by a point. But Matt Prater Huh? Matt Prater? Wait, what? You mean that guy that said he retired and now he's on Buffalo? Well, kind of retired. He went to go play college football or coach college football or whatever it was that happened with Matt Prater. We could dive into that conversation another time. We could dive into that another time. Anyways, he kicks it up and good. The Dolphins and the Bills are knotted up at 7. It's 7 Buffalo, 7 Miami. Buffalo has tied the ball game. After one quarter of play, Buffalo and Miami are tied at 7. So you wonder, okay, what are you trying to do here, Buffalo? What are you trying to do here? Are you trying to get us to actually win a ball game? Are you trying to make it look like we're going to win? Second quarter action. Well plays 63 yards, Buffalo on the ball, and it is a Buffalo Bills touchdown with Josh Allen throwing to Jackson Hawes, I believe is the name of the receiver who got the touchdown in the second quarter's first touchdown for Buffalo. And he would get it's Jackson Hawes. It was a 5-yard touchdown. Matt Prater for the extra point, up and good. Buffalo's up and in front, 14-7. So it's 14-7 Buffalo. Not on my watch, Miami says. Now I know what game we're playing, Buffalo. We're playing football and we're winning this ball game. Tua to the Penguin. Waddle, waddle, waddle. Do the waddle dance. It's Jalen Waddle for 3 yards. And all of a sudden, with Riley Patterson's extra point up and through the uprights for a good, we have Riley Patterson and Tua with Jalen Waddle on the board for Buffalo to be tied up at, you thought it was 7-7? Now it is 14-14. So again, we're tied up at 14-14. It's 14-14, Miami and Buffalo tied at 14 at the half. We are tied at 14. Second half begins kind of like this with the second half action, and we're going to break this up into parts because we're coming up on our first break in the program here. The Buffalo Bills do manage to get things in their favor in the third quarter once again with a touchdown by James Cook up the middle for 2 yards, and Matt Prater does kick an extra point, but there was a field goal that was missed by Matt Prater. That was when they had the opportunity to find a way. Buffalo was definitely when that was happening. Anywho, the Buffalo Bills are in the lead. And the only play to be scored in the third quarter, which of course that's when the field goal played out. It did play out in the third quarter. The Buffalo Bills were given a field goal opportunity and of course missed. But they still have the lead, so it's 14-21 after 3 quarters of play. All right. We're going to take a timeout and hear some words from our friends over at Sienna T Radio. Maybe a word from our station. And who knows? Perhaps we've got a word coming out from Sports for Beginners. When we come back, we'll dive into the second half, fourth quarter analogy and discuss how this game went down in a nutshell through the stats. We'll discuss game balls of the game. Hear from the Buffalo Bills locker room. For Buffalo Bill fans joining me on Dolphins Postgame, you're always welcome to join us. We will get into what Sunday afternoon's schedule looks like for week number 3, and we will dive in to Jets, Bills, Dolphins, Saints. So Jets will take on the Dolphins. We'll dive into, of course, Bills versus Saints. But I use that title to kind of determine the teams. It is Jets versus Dolphins next week, and it of course will be next week Saints versus Bills, but that's something to talk about later. We'll take a break, come back to wrap up the game breakdown. On the other side, you're listening to Dolphins Postgame on Sports for Beginners and streaming on the Ice and Behind the Benches. Back in a few minutes.
Sienna T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
All right, welcome back, everybody, in the Dolphins Post Game. Welcome back, everybody, in to the show. I am Thomas, your host of the program. It is the Dolphins. It is the Bills. The Bills on the right. The Dolphins on the left. When we last left you, we were in the third quarter, and the third quarter had the Dolphins down by 7, 27-14 the score. So let's relive now what the fourth quarter had in store for us. Dolphins on the ball at this point in our scoring drives. Dolphins on the ball at this point. So how did they go? Well, they managed to score a touchdown on the missed field goal, thanks to a 9-yard pass, 16-yard run, a loss of 2 yards, and a 5-yard penalty on C. Bishop for the Buffalo Bills, 16 yards penalty on Miami's JS, who was ineligible downfield. The touchdown comes off of a pass to Meet the Roadrunner, Tyreek Hill from Tua, Riley Patterson with the kick up, and it's good. And the Dolphins and Bills are now tied once again, this time at 21. It's 21 Bills, 21 Dolphins. I wonder what will happen now. No need to answer that question because in the fourth quarter, with Buffalo on the field, after a kick from Riley Patterson from 65 yards to the Miami 35-yard line of the end zone, it ends up being a touchback on the Bills' 35-yard line. So no return there. An 11-yard run from James Cook. Then no yards gained on the next play he had for 1st and 10. It was a 0 run yardage game. So great job by the defense. Josh Allen makes a pass to James Cook. Then he tries to get Elijah Moore for a short incomplete pass on the shotgun. Sends it back to James Cook for a 6-yard run. James Cook again receives the ball with a 3-yard run, then a 7-yard run for Ty Johnson up the middle. And then the Dolphins will see Allen pass it to Joshua Palmer to the Miami 15-yard line for 5 yards. And who should be the touchdown target for Allen but Kyle Shakir? Yeah, Shakir for 15 yards out. Got the pass from Josh Allen. All of a sudden, the Buffalo Bills are up 27-21 on the Dolphins. But will that be the case? Matt Prater has missed a field goal, hasn't missed a single extra point. This one from Matt Prater for the extra point to go up 28-21 on the Dolphins for the Buffalo Bills is up and through the uprights. It is going through, and it's good. And the Dolphins find themselves down 7 yet again, trying to beat the game clock and use as much time as they possibly can to take it off of the game clock for the Dolphins. 10-yard penalty for the Dolphins. Elijah Moore right in on Mika Fitzpatrick. Penalty was on Dalton Kincaid for offensive holding. Then James Cook took care of a 10-yard penalty from Dalton Kincaid on Mika Fitzpatrick of offensive holding and brought it in for 4 yards. He got a 4-yard run after that. Timeout Miami, their second charge timeout of the half. And then, of course, James Cook with the ball after a short pass to Elijah Moore for Josh Allen, which finally connects. The fourth and final timeout for the Miami Dolphins. The third, I should say, and final timeout is charged at 1:56 to go in the fourth quarter after James Cook is tackled for a for a 3-yard run gain. He gains 3 yards, not lost. It was a gain. And then the Buffalo Bills see the Dolphins have called all their timeouts. They know they have all 2 timeouts left. So they are going to play this safe, have a 0-yard run on one play, but get 2 yards in. Call timeout with just 27 seconds to play in the game. And Matt Prater from 48 yards, nails a field goal, his second of the ball game. First nailed field goal of the entire game. Sends the Bills fans happy home and well as the Bills go to 3-0 on the season when they get ready to face the New Orleans Saints next week. What will the New Orleans Saints record be heading into next week against Buffalo? I'm sure we'll all find out this Sunday. For Bills Mafia fans, including Blue Jay player Ernie Clement. First of all, good luck today, Ernie Clement. Try and get us a Blue Jays win. Blue Jay fans, if you're watching, we'll see what happens there. And happy Victory Friday to you. Happy regular Friday to all of our Dolphins fans as we find ourselves 0-3 on the season with another loss. But hey, we've got another team that could be 0-3 just like us heading into next week, and that is, of course, the New York Jets. We're going to get into game balls of the game on the other side, but right now, let's hear from the Bills locker room. And Dolphins fans, as we take us into our break, you have the option to, of course, mute this thing, but we're going to hear from the Bills locker room and hear from the man Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, on this 31-21 victory over the Miami Dolphins. Almost said, there we go, I said Buffalo. Well, no matter what you want to say about it, the Bills do win. They take Thursday night, and what will happen in Saints land? I don't know, but we'll see. If the Bills are presented a challenge, the Dolphins do lose this game by 10 points. However, they were never out of the ball game. Sean McDermott and Josh Allen's gang take us to a break. Here is the Bills locker room for a victory speech of 31-21 over the Dolphins. When we come back, the Sunday schedule of afternoon games. Game balls of the game right off the top. And then, after a 30-second timeout, we will preview both the Saints and Bills and Jets and Dolphins. So be sure you stick with me. Allen, McDermott, you guys have the call. Take it away, fellas. And this is your time. Dolphins Nation, to mute the victory speech if you do not want to hear from your opponent's coach. This is your time. Take it away, fellas.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what, man. That's some real mental toughness right there and grit, man. Right? Toe to toe the whole way. Wasn't going our way. You guys stood up. You stood up and made a big time play. TV, great freaking play. And look, there's a lot of guys I could mention. Hey, coming out to basically close it out. Those specialists, Prater, Cam. All right, we got a couple first I want to recognize. We got, where's Jackson Halls? And we got Jimbo, tied, listen to me, tied a franchise record for consecutive rushing touchdowns.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
All right, everybody, welcome in to Dolphins Post Game. Welcome back, I should say, to Dolphins Post Game. We are back here with you for just a couple more minutes here, as it is 6:00 p.m. Not caught up yet with the Blue Jays season so far. Tune into my latest 4-game series recap, recapping 1, 2, 3, and 4 games between the Tampa Bay Rays, as Tampa Bay and the Blue Jays will meet one final time at Rogers Center in the final homestand of the season. That's Blue Jays game recap only on Sports for Beginners. It may be here at a later date on the ice and behind the benches during the postseason run. Speaking of postseason, we are going to get back into the Dolphin conversation in just a little bit. But last thing to bring up, the Blue Jays postseason for on the ice and behind the benches will be run in between the hockey season with either a reaction pod of BJFR, a reaction pod kind of like what Steve Dangle does for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it will be here on the ice and behind the benches and maybe on Sports for Beginners, where you will hear after every postseason game reactions from either myself or host of Bill's Postgame and host of Sports for Beginners, Scott McGregor, react to the Blue Jays win or loss in the postseason. More on that if we get time to do so, but we have some things to get to. Again, if you're a Dolphin fan, but you didn't want to hear the Buffalo Bills victory speech, which took us into our break, which will be provided in the link of the description of this episode as well. I'm glad that you're still with us. It's time now for the game totals of the game, and we're going to get right into that as we're just about minutes away, I should say, from first pitch in Kansas City's Kauffman Stadium. We are, of course, getting you ready for next week for the Bills and Saints, and of course, prime time again with the Dolphins and the Jets. We will have a before they kick off show, Dolphins Jets show on Sports for Beginners only, teeing up Jets and Dolphins if we don't get to teeing it up at the end of this show for the Dolphins football. So we'll have that for you on Sports for Beginners only. But we have some news to get to before we get there. And be sure to join Scott, hockey fans, this hockey season for the return of Penguins postgame on the ice and behind the benches, or as it will be known on Sports for Beginners, Penguins Weekly Recap, where we'll talk everything Penguins hockey from the games that have played out. Sure to be fun. I'm very sure it'll be fun. And yeah, that's about it. Let's get back into it. All right. So the Dolphins lose Thursday night, 31-21. Well, I guess it's better than losing 33-8 or 33-27. I guess it's better than losing that. Those types of games, like the ones we saw with the Colts and just previous week, the Patriots, which is 33-27 to, of course, 33-8, which was week one's final. I mean, it's a pretty cool matchup if you ask me. Losing only by 10, it's pretty cool. Our game stats are brought to you by the CBS Sports app. Download the app and follow your favorite teams wherever you are watching a certain sport. We have it for you on CBS Sports app. We have it for all the other sports apps. Time of possession, the Buffalo Bills, 31 minutes, 47 seconds of time of possession. The Dolphins, 28 minutes, 13 seconds. 19 first downs to 23. The Miami Dolphins over the Buffalo Bills at 19 first downs to 23. 11 of those first downs for the Dolphins were passing plays. 12 of them were passing plays for the Buffalo Bills. 3 of them were penalties for the Buffalo Bills on first down markers, and 8 of them each for the Dolphins and the Bills on the ground. Dolphins were 10 of 15 in terms of third down efficiency. They converted 10 times out of 15 tries, and they were 6 of 11, the Buffalo Bills, on third down efficiency as well. How about watching fourth down efficiency? Well, Buffalo didn't really see any fourth downs, so the Miami Dolphins, how did they do on fourth downs in this game? Well, they converted on just the only drive they had this entire ball game on fourth down. So they are 1 for 1. Against the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins totaled just 276 yards to 360 yards for the Buffalo Bills. The Dolphins made 59 plays to 57 from the Buffalo Bills that were plays. And in terms of passing yards per play, which was 4.7 for the Dolphins, 6.3 for the Buffalo Bills, the Bills averaged just 213 passing yards, 146 passing yards for the Dolphins, averaging yards per carry of 22 out of 34 completed attempts for Tua. It was a 4.3 yard per pass for the Dolphins, and a 6.8 passing yards for Josh Allen on just 22 of 28 completion attempts he had to throw passes. Josh was the only quarterback that got sacked for a loss of 10 yards, and he got sacked 2 times in this ball game. Tua did not get sacked the entire game. The Buffalo Bills may have rushed for 157 yards. The Dolphins rushed for 130 yards. They averaged just 5.2 yards a carry on yards per rush, 5.8 yards a carry for Buffalo Bills on the yards per rush. Dolphins converted just 3 times, and they had 3 chances in the red zone, which converted all 3. Buffalo had 4 more chances than the Miami Dolphins did. However, they were only able to convert 1, 2, 3. So just like the Dolphins, they only converted 3 times, yet they had 1 more try on red zone conversions. They had 1 more try, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't convert a 4th time. They could, however, on goal to go efficiency, convert all 2 times they had their chances there, as could the Dolphins, despite the 3 chances they had. 3 for 3 for them. Great job there. Both teams fumbled the ball. Dolphins fumbled the ball once, did not lose it, nor did they recover it. The Bills fumbled the ball 2 times, did not recover and did not lose the ball. Tua threw an interception, his first interception against the Buffalo Bills of the entire ball game. But of course, if you look at it from this season, he has thrown an interception on this play, of course, many times before. So he has done it before. Is this at all surprising? No, not really, because we've seen the interceptions thrown. And remember, the Dolphins didn't really play in the Indianapolis Colts until it was literally the last half. If you look at it from week 1 examples, as far as touchdowns are concerned, the Bills had 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown to total 4 touchdowns. The Dolphins had 1 rushing touchdown and 2 passing touchdowns. Of course, one of those rushing touchdowns, I believe, was Ollie Gordon's touchdown, where he went up the middle for 2 yards. The other ones were to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So those were the passing touchdowns. Seems like the Buffalo Bills beat them in touchdowns. I mean, they almost would have had 5 touchdowns had it not been for a pick 6 touchdown Buffalo on the interception thrown by, well, Tua Tagovailoa. Had Tua not thrown that interception, there's no chance we're saying that there's an interception in this ball game. He did throw an interception, but you take the good with the bad, and you put the good instead of the bad. You take it 1 game at a time, 1 week at a time. I still think Tua has some fight left in him. The Buffalo Bills returned the ball for 134 yards. The Dolphins returned the ball for 174 yards. No defense, special team touchdowns, as we mentioned. 1 interception thrown, and that, of course, was returned for 24 yards. The 1 interception yards from Buffalo was 24 yards. The Miami Dolphins kicked 5 times and had the call of a 152 yardage in terms of kick yards. They were 22 yards on the 2 punt returns they had for punt yards. Buffalo also punted 2 times for 15 yards, and it is only about 95 of the kickoff yards they got that they returned. So they had 3 kickoffs and only returned it for 95 yards. Interesting. So that's our stats. All right, we're going to get into our game balls of the game in just about 5 minutes from now. But before we get there, let's take a look at our Sunday schedule and get you all amped up for a big September 21st, Sunday 2025. Here we go with the Sunday scoreboard for week number 3. Action begins with the Panthers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are 1-1 to start the season. They'll face the 0-2 Carolina Panthers just 2 weeks into the season and 2 losses for Carolina. The 2-0 Green Bay Packers will take on the Cleveland Browns, who are 0-2. They'll try to advance just like Buffalo to 3-0 with a win over the Cleveland Browns. The Jacksonville Jaguars, 1-1, will take on the 0-2 Houston Texans. That game also in the 1 o'clock slate we have. The Bengals taking in the Vikings. The Bengals are 2-0. They'll take on the Steelers are in a 1-1 matchup with the 1-1 Patriots at 1 o'clock Eastern on Sunday. That will be a fun one to watch. The Eagles are against the LA Rams. They are 2-0 versus 2-0 Rams. So the defending Super Bowl champions face a 2-0 showdown against the 2-0 as they are 2-0. One team's going to be 3-0 and one team is going to be, 2-1 in their case. The 0-2 Jets take on the 2-0 Buccaneers. The Buccaneers will face off against the Jets, who the Jets face the Dolphins next week. That game also at 1 o'clock. Should be a fun one to see where that one goes. The Tennessee Titans take on the Indianapolis Colts. They are 0-2 to start the season. The Tennessee Titans hoping for a victory this week against Indianapolis. The Las Vegas Raiders are 1-1. They're facing a 1-1 Washington Commanders team. That game also at 1 o'clock Eastern. And your 1 o'clock slate finishes with the Raiders and Commanders. Matchups from the Denver Broncos taking on the Chargers at a record of 1-1 to 2-0. With a win over their opponent, the Denver Broncos, who hope to go to 2-1 after losing to the Indianapolis Colts last week. Are 0-2 to start the season, Saints, but they, at 4:05 p.m., will be looking to go 2-1 on the season. I should say 1-2 with a victory over the Seattle Seahawks. 0-3 winning wise as a loss, but the Saints are hoping to get their first win of the season. Will that happen? Find out in the late afternoon at 4:05 on Sunday in Seattle. And the Dallas Cowboys, Arizona Cardinals will face off against the 2-0 San Francisco 49ers. Cardinals are 2-0 and so are the 49ers. That matchup will be quite the match. One team's going 3-0, one team's going 2-1. By the time that game's all said and done, that game gets started at 4:25 Eastern, as well as the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys take on the 0-2 Bears. The Dallas Cowboys hoping to go to 2-1 with a win over the Bears. The Bears hoping to go to 1-2 with a win over the Cowboys. That's at 4:25 Eastern. We'll have the Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football slate of games coming for you in just a few short minutes. But let's take us to our final break of the program with the game balls of the game, the player of the game. For me, quarterback-wise, I mean, Dolphins Nation, I want to say it's Tua, but it's actually going to be Josh Allen, despite the interception that was thrown by Tua. I mean, you gotta give credit where credit is due. Tua gave it his all, but unfortunately, it was unwatchable football as they do lose to the Buffalo Bills. I'll give Tua a little bit of a, would you call it a honorable mention, but the player of the game for me is Tua. Some game balls to give out. Jalen Waddle deserves one. Ollie Gordon deserves one. They were great. And you know what? I'm going to be good to Tyreek Hill and give him a game ball of the game. Great job by those guys. They did what they had to keep this game in check, and that's pretty good job by them. All right, on the other side, we will dive in to the Bills game balls of the game. We'll set up Bills Jets, Bills Saints, Jets Dolphins, Sunday Night Football, and Monday Night Football's slate of games. We'll talk about which games are the most watchable this Sunday that I'm looking forward to, and I'm sure you guys will be looking forward to. That's coming up when we continue on Dolphins Post Game. So be sure to stick with me.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
All right, thanks very much, Sienna. Thanks very much, Scott, for those words on the ice and behind the benches, and of course, Sports for Beginners. Thanks very much. Dolphins are up against the Jets next week. The Bills are up against the Saints next week. We are going to dive into the Bills and Dolphins matchups for next week in just about minutes from now. But before we get there, we have already revealed the game balls of the game for the Miami Dolphins. We haven't revealed the game balls of the game for the Buffalo Bills. And before we do that, quick note for baseball fans that right up at the end of Kauffman Stadium's ball game, we will have you for Blue Jays game recap immediately following this show. And on Sports for Beginners, that will feature the Kansas City Royals opening up a 3-game series with the Toronto Blue Jays at Kauffman Stadium. The starting pitchers are as follows. It's Mad Max Scherzer taking on the Michael Lorenzen starter for the Kansas City Royals. He will get the start for the Kansas City Royals. Max Scherzer will get the start for the Toronto Blue Jays. Be sure to hear us talk about the lineup, break down the game from inning to inning, the score line, all that jazz coming up after tonight's ball game between the Royals and the Blue Jays. And we'll have it for you, of course, following Game 2 and Game 3 as the Blue Jays prepare to head home one last time for a 6-game homestand between the Boston Red Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays. Weekly Blue Jay recap has you for that final homestand, which of course will probably tally the road stand between Tampa Bay and, of course, Kansas City, but stay tuned for details on that. All right, here's the final piece of that Sunday scoreboard in prime time. As we near the end of Dolphins Postgame, we're at that heart of the show. First time to tee up Dolphins, Jets, and Bills Saints. A reminder that the Dolphins are playing next week on Monday Night Football, and so are the Jets, who are playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers early this Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern. They'll be in the evening time zone on Monday next week when they take on the Dolphins. Should be a fun matchup. Speaking of evening, the Chiefs have themselves quite a matchup. They're taking on the G-Man Giants of New York in a chance to get their first U as they start the season 0-2. For the first time in a couple of seasons, I don't have the history right now for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I believe it's just a few seasons since they haven't really started 0-2 in a season since they had won the Super Bowl. So this, would you call familiar territory if they had lost 2 games 2 weeks in a row before? It's kind of a familiar territory. Does that get rightened today? I should say tonight, Sunday night. On Sunday Night Football? Who knows? The Kansas City Chiefs will play the New York Giants, with the Giants hoping to go 1-2. But the Chiefs are also hoping to go 1-2. Either way you look at this matchup on Sunday Night Football, one team is going 0-3 and one team is going 1-2. Your Monday Night Football matchup is between Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson will face off against each other in a Monday Night Football extravaganza. It's the 1-1 Lions versus the 1-1 Ravens. One team's going to be 2-1 on the victory side, and one team's going to be 1-2 on the losing side. Who's it going to be? Tune into MNF to find out. That's the short form for Monday Night Football. Sure to be a fun one there. Well, all right, Dolphins fans. All right, Bills fans. Which means who is taking Thursday night next week? Let's take a look at that to see where it's at. And that will be the Seattle Seahawks, who are taking on the Arizona Cardinals next week. A reminder of who Seattle's playing this week. They are on tap to face, I believe I said it was the New York Jets. I believe it was the New York Jets I said. Seattle's taking on the Jets. Is that the case? Are they taking on the Jets? No, it's the Buccaneers the Jets are taking on. Seattle's opponent this week is the New Orleans Saints, who next week face off against the Buffalo Bills. And speaking of next week, Thursday Night Football features Arizona and Seattle on Thursday Night Football. Let's see if Seattle ends up being 2-1 against, if it can't happen, 3-0 Arizona Cardinals. We'll see what happens there. But in order to find out how next week will play out, you have to tune in to Sunday's action and find the games you're going to want to watch. And speaking of games you're going to want to watch, Buffalo Bills game balls coming up in just 4 minutes time. We're getting to that. Game balls of the game for the Buffalo Bills. We already mentioned the player of the game for me is Josh Allen. Tua is a little bit of an honorable mention. Elijah Gordon. Now I messed up Gordon's first name. I can't say the guy's name now. Oh well, that's what I get for going a week ahead. Anyway, games to watch this week as we get into our Buffalo Bill game balls of the game. Games to watch this week. Yeah, good question. What are some games to watch this week if you're a Dolphins fan? Well, obviously you want to watch how the Jets compare to their matchup against the Buccos. So that's a pretty good one to look at. If you're a Bills fan, obviously keeping an eye on the Saints game to see what you can do against the Saints, who are this week taking on the Seattle Seahawks, and seeing if you could pose a challenge to the Saints for Buffalo. It should be fun to get to the end of that one. I wonder what the storylines are for that. The games that I think Bills fans and Dolphins fans are going to be watching, of course, are going to be Jets, Buccos, and of course, Bills. And, well, they know that they're facing the Saints next week, but Seattle is probably going to be what they're watching. So they're probably going to be watching the Seattle Seahawks taking on the New Orleans Saints. Another game I feel like might be of interest to you fans of Bills and Dolphins could be the Indianapolis Colts versus the Tennessee Titans, a team that's 2-0 versus a team that's 0-2. Shout out to our friend over at Locked On Titans for the Locked On Podcast Network, Mr. Tyler Rowland. See him on the Locked On NFL morning show on a week-to-week basis, Monday through Friday, as he's known as the Madman. On the Locked On NFL morning show, we're shouting you out, Tyler Rowland, because we're wondering if your game will be great to see against the Indianapolis Colts. Should be a fun challenge for the Tennessee Titans, but here's hoping the Tennessee Titans come out with a victory on the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see what happens. And last game I think that might be really, really interesting is the defending Super Bowl champions against the LA Rams. Now, look, they are tied at wins. They both have 2 wins, but only one team can go 3-0. I think that's going to be the Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I think it's going to be the Eagles winning this game against the LA Rams. I could be wrong, though. As for you Detroit Lion fans out there, no news of Detroit Lions football content coming on Sports for Beginners quite yet, but anything can happen. I'm pretty sure we'll be locked in to see Joe Burrow's Cincinnati Bengals take on the Minnesota Vikings, and we are hoping that Joe Burrow is, of course, all right. He did get injured, and it does not look like he will be back in at quarterback for quite some time. So taking his place in this ball game will be Jake Browning. He will take on, right now, it looks like JJ McCartney, but it could change depending on injuries. So many games to look at, so many games to talk about. We are into our Bills-Dolphins game balls of the game. And this is where we get to the finish line of Dolphins Post Game. I mean, look, Josh Allen is by far the player of the game for this ball game. Was I expecting it to be close? Yes, but I wasn't expecting it to be that close, like a 10-point game. I was expecting maybe a 7-point lead because we knew what would or what might not happen. We knew what might happen or what wouldn't happen. We knew that the Dolphins weren't going to let the Bills run them out of the building. Like, let's be real, Dolphins fans. We didn't think they would run the Bills out of the building. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. But no matter what you think, 10 points ain't bad for a loss. Losing by the score we lost in week 1, 33-8, yeah, it's compare that to Thursday night's final against Buffalo, where we lost by only 10. 33-8, yeah, that was bad game from the Dolphins. They lost by 25 points. And then you look at the game that we played with the Patriots, where same score the opponent had 33. However, in that week's matchup, the Dolphins showed some fight and made it look really, really interesting. They made it a 33-27 loss. So they lost 33-27, which means they only lost by a 6. They only lost by a touchdown. They get a touchdown. The game is basically in Dolphins' favor. And you're talking about a brand new Thursday night football game in which would be the Dolphins would have been 1-1, and now they are 2-1. Not the case. And now it's not the case for week number 4, as we are into week number 3. So 3 weeks losses. What happens with the Jets Monday Night Football? I'm sure we'll all find out as soon as the Jets game goes final, when the Jets take on the Buccaneers this Sunday. But Dolphins fans, here's me saying to you right away that Monday Night Football, while it may look like a must-win game, it could be a must-win game, but you never really know. All right. We're wasting time on the Bills game, balls of the game. Let's go right into it. And I'll start with Mr. James Cook. Scott was asking me before they kick off, which was ahead of this game between the Bills and the Dolphins. He was asking me, what are my key matchups? I said it was defense. Well, you start with defense, you're probably not going to get too far. So credit to James Cook. He gets one of my players of the game, balls of the game for the Buffalo Bills. I love his every effort, especially on the ground. 19 attempts, 108 yards, 26 his longest yardage, 1 touchdown, averaged just 5.7 yards a carry. And you look at Dalton Kincaid as well. He was a good one as well. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 13.2 average yards a carry. Longest yardage was 20 yards, 66 yards for him. How about Kiao Shakir, or just Shakir? How about him? Hey, Shakir, how about him? As far as this season is concerned, he's up to 121 yards, 11 receptions, 1 touchdown. In his case, for receiving, he got 4 targets from Josh Allen and 4 receptions for 45 yards. 11.2 is the yardage per carry, and of course, he scored a touchdown. He's another one of them game balls of the game. And how about Elijah Moore? 1 attempt on the ground, 11 yards rushing, adds to his already 40-something yards this season. No touchdown to speak of it, but hey, he was pretty good. Yes, and I can't leave the game balls of the game because I was talking about the defense. And let's talk about that interception. The defensive interceptor. Let's talk about him. You can't spell Buffalo without T. Bernard. I mean, look at this guy. 24 yards on that reception. If he ran it all the way for a pick 6 touchdown, that'd be let me welcome you to Sunday morning football here on CBS and Fox. And let's talk about something we hadn't seen, but we know we've seen it in previous NFL seasons. We never thought we'd see it on Thursday Night Football, especially with the Dolphins and the Bills. That'd be one of them highlights of the game. That'd be one of them, what the heck? An interception all the way for the end zone touchdown. That'd be like the play of the game, basically. All in all, Dolphins are against the Jets next week. Saints are against the Bills next week. I mean, if we had to do early game predictions, I would say that Buffalo probably makes it close with the Saints next week. I don't know how the Jets will fare, but I'll definitely tell you it might be an overtime game, folks. So buckle up for Monday Night Football next week. It's gonna be it'll be a fun one, I'm sure. And speaking of week number 4, there's a doubleheader. So the Broncos are in action against the Cincinnati Bengals. That game will get started at 8:15 Eastern, while the Dolphins get started at 7:15 Eastern. And Sunday Night Football for that matchup next week is Green Bay and Dallas. That will be fun. But you know what else will be fun? Watching afternoon football and thinking Saints, Bills is comeback for Bills in order for the defense. Because obviously it was not a defensive night last night for either squad, but the team sure almost made it look like it for Buffalo's case with the pick from T. Bernard, and that is where we'll leave it for this Dolphins postgame. I want to thank you all for joining us on Dolphins Postgame. We'll see you again next week when the Dolphins face the Jets. If you are tuning in to it on the Ice and Behind the Benches, Dolphins Postgame will follow the Jets and Dolphins game immediately following an episode from On the Ice and Behind the Benches, which we'll have for you. And we'll probably have some Buffalo Bills postgame as well that same day. You never know. For now, let's eavesdrop on Orchard Park, New York, and the Dolphins and the Bills, as this game, despite however lopsided it was on Thursday Night Football, ends up in the Bills' favor, and boy, did they take it with authority. The Bills are 3-0, the Dolphins are 0-2. I wonder what will happen next week for both the Bills and the Dolphins when the Dolphins play prime time again against the New York Jets. Should be a fun one. And the Patriots team for week 5 takes on the New Orleans Saints in afternoon football. I can't wait to see how Buffalo and Miami play against the Jets and the Saints next week. But that's next week. This week, the Jets are against the Buccos, and the Saints, well, the Saints, they've got their hands full with the Seattle Seahawks. Next week, it's Buffalo. Buckle up, Buffalo Bills, Mafia, because nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. I'm thinking comeback game. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but next week I'm thinking comeback game. Will that happen? You gotta tune in next week and find out. I will be with you for Blue Jays game recap with the Royals and the Blue Jays after Kauffman Stadium's Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3 go final. It's Max Scherzer on the hill against Michael Lorenzen. We'll have it for you on the Ice and Behind the Benches at a later date, but on Sports for Beginners right after the ball game. And that, of course, brings this show to a close. My name is Thomas McGregor. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next week when the Dolphins take on the Jets. For now, let's enjoy the rest of week 3. Have yourselves a great weekend, and I'll see you baseball fans on the flip side. Fins up until then.
Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.